indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, yeah. Well, we have to approve the...
Yep.
First item on the agenda would be to approve the minutes. Is there such a motion?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Amon.
I'll second.
Seconded by Berg. Any discussion, any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. You got something there? Oh, hang on one second. And then we have bills to pay. I assume you all looked them over, and is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Emdick moves, and Commissioner Amon seconds. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying the bills say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved to be paid. And now we have, Deb is going to tell us all about the after hours and how that's going.
Well, 2 years ago, we explored the option of extending some hours at the License Bureau from 4:30 to 5:30. I gave you all, or you should have had in your packet, the sheet that tells you how it's going. And I wish I could say that we had 10 to 12 to 15 per night, but unfortunately, it hasn't caught on. And I guess in light of that and the dollars that we take in, I would like to recommend that we discontinue them for the time being. Part of the reasoning is we are going to be doing construction downtown, and they're going to be working at night. So it would be wise if we weren't there in the building. Second reason would be, all I have to say is Minlars. And, and the new Real ID and enhanced driver's license that is causing a very big backlog of work during the 8 to 4:30 hours. I feel fiscally it would be more responsible to have my whole staff there from 8 to 4:30 versus several of them coming in an hour late. We've been starting the mornings with 8 people in line waiting out the door to try to get in and get their transactions done. An enhanced driver's license takes us a minimum of 15 minutes per person, a minimum of 15 minutes. So I feel it would better serve the public. I think what's happened is the people who are going to go online already went online, and the people who are coming in during our hours are going to keep coming in during our hours from 8 to 4:30. So I'm open for any questions you have. You might have heard that they're going to scrap Minlars within the next year and a half, and we'll all be learning a whole new system again. And we have at least 3 more years of a push for Real ID and enhanced driver's license to get through the 4-year cycle. So I'm open to any questions you have for me.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. Deb, Mark, and myself have visited on this. We have reviewed these numbers. I think when we talked about the remodel project, one of the things I brought in from Deb's office, the amount of time that it takes to process everything right now. And so along with this, if we don't go back to the regular day hours because the night hours aren't really paying off, we'll have to add a staff because we're short and to get the coverage. And so we have options. So the option is go back to regular day hours and have the staff there when we're busy, or if after construction's over, we could continue to have evening hours, but we'd have to probably add a staff. My recommendation to the board would be, because of the numbers are showing that the after hours aren't really paying, I would recommend we go back to the hours that we had. That's my recommendation.
I can tell you too, in case you're wondering if this is just a problem here, it's not. The Benson office used to be open Saturday mornings. They are no longer because they can't staff it enough to get the transactions done in the amount of time they have the staff there. The only 2 offices that I am aware of out Metro that are open, they're not even open evenings. They all close at 4:30. 2 are open on Saturday mornings. And I have visited with both of them, and they feel the Saturday mornings are looking the same as what the evening hours are looking for them as well.
Commissioner Emdick.
Well, I can attest to the workload and the time-consuming efforts, particularly the enhanced driver's license. I went in to try to get my license, an enhanced I can't remember, Deb, if you were there that day or
I
not.
was, yes.
And I was going to get my passport done at the same time, so I came in and she said, well, I can't give it to you unless you have some evidence of where you live. Okay, so I walked across the lobby and I got my property tax statement to show that, I was at this address. She said, well, you needed something else. And I said, okay, what works? And she said, well, your passport. I said, great, I have my passport with me. Yeah, but it expired 2 days ago. So
And
I still haven't been back to get my enhanced driver's license.
it is a common problem, and we do spend a lot of time with people explaining what they need and what they need to bring, and it does take several trips.
And I was a little frustrated, and I shouldn't have been, but boy,
Oh, if you were the worst we had, we'd be happy.
So Deb, for those who are watching on TV, what should they bring in for the?
Awesome. I've even thought about doing a little night meeting to tell people what they need. But you need to bring proof of U.S. citizenship. So U.S. passport, unexpired, certified birth certificate, not the one with the little footprints on the back from the hospital, but an actual one from the recorder's office, proof of social security card, so your original social security card, not the little white stub that comes on the bottom, but the actual card. If you don't have that, which many of us don't, you need a W-2, a 1099, a 1099 SSA. There's 5 things you can bring for that. Then you also need proof of residency. If you're not changing the address on your driver's license, you can use that. And then you can also bring in a bank account statement, a credit card statement, your property taxes that has both the top and the bottom on them with the address matching. A home utility services bill. It's a little more difficult for students. Students need a student ID with their certified school transcript, and you must be 16 in order to get a real ID or an enhanced driver's license. Difference between real ID and enhanced driver's license. Real ID you will need by October 1st of 2020 if you're going to use your driver's license to board an airplane or get in a federal building. If you have a U.S. passport or passport card, it's not necessary to upgrade, but you can. The enhanced driver's license does all of that, plus you can border cross into Canada or Mexico by land or sea. If you're flying there, you still need the U.S. passport. But many people who go to Canada fishing or winter down in Texas or Arizona like that option, so they don't have to carry their passport when they're driving across the border. So that's my little short spiel on it.
You should also tell them how long it takes to get the enhanced. So I went in on February 22nd, and I received it the first part of May.
Yeah, my husband did his the end of November, and he got his the end of March.
Mr. Chair, I would
Yes.
move on the recommendation to revert to the hours that
The date.
Nichols is.
Motion by Emdick, is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
Seconded by Amen. Any further discussion or other questions?
So just a comment, I also went in to get my enhanced driver's license, similar to Mr. Emdick. And I guess I didn't come prepared either. So you're not the only one, Roger.
Well, I may
It
too.
happens, but
Yeah.
I have to comment your staff
Yep.
and how they approached it. I'm sure they're very frustrated trying to repeat the same thing over and over again. I don't know how we can do that to educate the public. So this is a new thing. But your staff was very accommodating and very. I could tell there was a little frustration because now I have to copy all these and I have to come back again and make a few additional copies so I can get all the information, get my hands. And kudos to your
Thank you.
staff people.
They need to hear that. So if you ever have a free minute to tell them, it's been a frustrating 2 years with MNLARS and this 2 new programs, and now we get to learn another one because they're scrapping MNLARS. So it'll be interesting. I have great staff. They're very loyal, and they do work their hardest. It is something new, but it's been in the news, it's been in the papers, and yet people don't know. And I may explore having an evening meeting to just educate people on what they need to bring. I think that would be helpful.
You said passport and birth certificate?
Oh, either or.
Okay. That's, I wanted to clarify that. And
Either or.
Mr.
Just going to
Matz.
say, Deb,
Yeah.
join the realm of human services and correction.
I know, I've heard from several of them that work there that they
Or
have.
public health or the
Yeah.
other. You've just been insulated far too long.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Okay, on my motion, Larry informed me we need an effective date, so I would amend my motion for June 1st as the effective.
Okay, the motion will read
I'll agree with
June
that.
1st, and it's, so, all right, yes.
I was just going to comment. You said you're looking for different ways to do it. I think you'd do an excellent job, or if maybe, and if you didn't want to, somebody else, like a YouTube with a link to our website.
That is a
Or to
great
our
idea.
website.
Great idea.
With little demonstrations of the
Yeah.
forms and stuff.
Yes.
Good idea.
Great idea.
So I think we bought some YouTube equipment, so
Talk-
IT should have it.
Okay,
So this will be effective June 1st.
Okay.
Deb has to notify the DMV department,
Yep,
and they have to approve it,
Yep.
but it should be in.
no, it shouldn't be an issue. Actually, technically, Mark has to notify them, so I'll get it prepared, Mark, so you can do that today.
All right, I'm ready to call the question. Is there anything else? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thanks a lot, Deb.
Thank you
Thanks,
all
Deb.
for your support. It does mean a lot. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the Chippewa River settlement with the Bowser, and I will take that because I am directly involved. I sit on the board at the Chippewa River Watershed Project. In 2015, we got a grant from Bowser, 200 and some $1,000. We didn't get it all because you only get half of it at a time. Turned out that we didn't use very much of it, and so it came time to give the rest of to reconcile, and they said we owed them $180,000 or some number in that range. I don't recall exactly the right number. Well, we went to work and we looked through all the books, and we had someone from Bowser come and help us, and we got to reconstruct some of the paperwork that was done incorrectly that was leading to that missed number, and they worked it down to $84,186.60. The watershed is divided among a number of counties, and the bill to our county is based on the percentage of the number of acres in the watershed. For example, Pope and Swift, between the two of them, have 59% of that bill, of the 84,000. So they're the most at risk. We only have 7% in the watershed. So I'm asking that the board approve a payment to Bowser from us. Well, actually, it'll go to the watershed, and then they'll write the check to Bowser for $5,893.06. Could I guess I will make that a motion and ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Mattson seconds. Any questions? It's pretty, I've talked about it at our, several times at the committee group, so I think everybody's aware. And I think even Tom Sharver, I can never say his last name, had an article about the whole situation in the paper a while back, so.
Shervany.
Everybody's aware of it. Yeah. Any questions at all? Hearing none, all those in favor of writing that check to the Chippewa River Watershed Project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you all very much. And now, we have Mel is up. A word. Oh, there he is over there.
I moved.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Jeremy is going to be handing out the bid tabs, but this morning we're going to be opening bids for project number SP 34-070-008. It's our grooved in striping, edgeline striping project. It's federally funded, 90% federal, 10% local match. And so we received 3 bids, and we'll be opening them here shortly.
Before we do, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? Mel, if we didn't do the grooved in, or is that required by law?
I don't believe it's required.
Okay,
no.
so if we did not do the grooved in,
Yep.
which allows for 90% federal
Yep.
funding, what would our counties cost to do the conventional striping?
Well,
Right now, it's
like
costing.
if we were
according to
gonna,
this,
I mean,
10%, but
our engineer, well, I don't know what it would be. The open striping.
the point is, this seems like one heck of a bargain. At
Oh, it is,
$10,000.
yeah, I mean, the
Stripe.
engineer's estimate is that you can see in your bid tab is, $276,000 and we're getting 90% of that. So we're gonna, we're getting $250,000 to stripe our county. And this will be incidentally, County Road 5, the new project will be included in this.
Okay. All right, we are ready.
All right.
You are.
So the first one is AAA striping, and where are they out of? St. Michael. They have a good bid bond, and their bid is $345,044.58, 345044.58. Century. So they have a good bid bond. This is Century Fence Company out of Forest Lake, Minnesota. They have a good bid bond, and their bid is $311,334.35, 311,334.35. And then the last one is Traffic Marking Services out of Maple Lake, Minnesota. And they have a good bid bond. And their bid is $214,068.32, 214,068.32. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes the bid opening. What we'll do is review the bids and then make a recommendation at the June 4th County Board meeting.
Okay. We're, I guess, commenting on the disparity between almost 100,000 between the.
Over.
What did they forget is the first thing that comes to me. I don't know. But that would be wonderful if that's, everything is all there. That's.
Yep. So we'll be checking this.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I thought I saw Dave here. Okay.
Come on up. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public watching, today before you, we have an agreement with Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center and the Candy Trail Rider Mountain Bike Club. Dave Peterson from the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center is here to give you a little background and tell you about it.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Dave.
We've been working with the Candy Trail Riders and the governing board at Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center to put together the memorandum of agreement, as well as with working with Larry as the county coordinator and the county attorney. The goal is to put in a single-track mountain bike trail at Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. So what we're asking the county today is to agree to join us in this memorandum of agreement to establish single-track mountain bike trails at Prairie Woods.
You want to give a little background on what the trail is?
Or maybe we could have Corey or someone come up.
Let's
and
have Corey come up.
Morning, guys.
Introduce yourself and
Corey Barber, I'm president of Candy Trail Riders. We put Candy Trail Riders together around August, started working with Prairie Woods on this project, I guess. And single track is a narrow dirt path off-road for mountain biking. I don't know. It's starting to get pretty popular around Minnesota, and we're looking to do something out at Prairie Woods. I guess, not sure if you guys have other questions or want me to go into detail.
Mr. Chair.
yes, go ahead.
When you say single track, does that mean it's always the same direction, or
Correct. That's the way we've designed it.
so you can't meet somebody on that?
Correct. Just a safety, safety measure that way. Cuyuna up in northern Minnesota, they're kind of a good place to look at as far as direction, what they've been doing. They've got some state backing on that, and they recently switched everything last year to directional, not multi-direction, revamped all their trails, and talking with them, it's cut down on
Maintenance and everything. And do state parks ever accommodate the trails that you're proposing here?
There's some that are now doing some trail work and stuff like that to bring them into some of the state parks. I know Alexandria has an area up there that they're working on, and I think down in Red Wing also has a state park that they've been building trails down there.
Mr. Chair, I would move to accept this memorandum of agreement.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. I just wanted to make, for the public's understanding, this will be separate from any of the hiking paths out at Prairie Woods, correct?
Yes.
So that you're not going to be running into people, hopefully.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you for doing this. I know it's been talked about at our Convention Visitors Board meeting about things for people to do. And it is a growing sport, and I witnessed it out in Colorado, and you talk about one lane, downhill, uphill, all types of aggressive courses, and people passing on a stretch that is barely enough room for two people to go shoulder to shoulder by, and performing these cross-country races. And the skill and agility that's taken in that is a great thing, and it should be good for bike sales too, because not just any bike will work on that trail. But thank you for doing that for the youth, and hopefully people get outdoors and use that a lot. It's a great thing. I hope it's going to grow and grow and grow, and I hope you have some races out there.
Commissioner Berg, you
Well,
have.
that was my question. Are there going to be some races or conventions that this might draw tourists to our area?
That would be, right now, I guess the main thing would be to get some trails out there that would be suitable for that in the future. And if we do have enough support with the club and the community that we'd have enough volunteers to do that, I think that could be very possible.
I just want to say I mostly enjoy the uphill portion of those trails when I do it.
Not me.
There's something wrong with you then. I like the downhill. Fat tire is same, or are all these bike trails for regular tires and fat tire? Or?
Yes, and that's one other thing. There's groomers now that are grooming trails for the winter, and that's something we're also looking into, is doing this year round to keep people out there on bikes. And my kids love it. They've gotten into it, and it's something we can do. So that's kind of another avenue of it, hopefully the winter part of it. So.
And I will say also, we vetted this through MCIT, and they gave us kind of a insurance how-to for this whole operation. So I think we've covered our bases there. So I would speak. And Harlan and I have been on the Prairie Woods board while this whole discussion has been going on, and sounds like a very good use of our space, and also another way to familiarize people with our wonderful Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center out there. So
I think this unique partnership is a great model. I think Dave bringing this forward, and Corey working with Dave, they did a lot of the legwork. So.
Yep. So with that, I think unless anyone,
Just a quick question or comment. It probably doesn't fit in too much, but I've been reading a lot about e-bikes And also I was reading about e-bikes and mountain bikes. Somehow it didn't seem like it would fit. Is that something that it would take special accommodations for in building a trail?
I think e-bikes on the mountain bike trail are a discussion that has not been had. So we really would look very carefully and closely before we would, essentially an e-bike is a motorized, motor-assisted vehicle. So whether or not that actually would be on the trails at Prairie Woods, it would be a later discussion. At this point, it would be non-motorized.
All right.
That would help you a lot on the uphill, Roger.
Yeah, and that made me think.
Especially if it's got a good gear ratio.
Bring along spare batteries.
All right. I think we're ready. I will call the question. All those in favor of granting this memorandum of agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for your hard work, and look forward to, you may not see me out there.
I got a fat bike for you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or I could do the downhill side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do the
You get up the top and I'll
Well, now
ride
with
it.
the e-bike, you just pedal a little bit and it just zooms right off.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Trail building days come up, and we'll give you notice on those, so you come see what we're doing.
Great.
All right.
Yeah, do that.
Yes.
Just as an FYI, Minnesota is the #1 state in the nation for bicycles per capita.
Really.
#1 per capita in the nation.
And you know, because of the Southwest Light Rail, they're going to close down a great big portion of the
plug-in
bike
for the
trail
trail.
for 2 years.
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be grinding their teeth on that one.
Yep, I agree.
Okay,
Sign, I'll get these guys to sign.
Eric, you're up.
Good morning. As you'll see in your packet, we got 3 grant proposals that we're looking forward to move forward with and execute. So I'll go in the order in which they were submitted. So when you look at the first grant that will be before you, that's going to be the Minnesota State Annual Boat and Water Safety Grant Agreement. On that one, just so you're aware, this is for the dates of January 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. So what we do on that particular grant is it's applied for the year in advance, and then those funds are reimbursed that following year. To go forward with that one, obviously I would need the board chair's signature, as well as either the county administrator or the county auditor. This funds are used to pay the overtime wages or wages of officers as they're performing their duties, as well as equipment to help maintain our water safety program. So that can be boats, equipment like that, as well as the buoys that we use for notification or navigation purposes within Kandiyohi County.
All right, so we have a motion to accept that grant.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Amon,
I'll second.
seconded by Berg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Now you want my autograph.
Okay, on the second one. On this one, this is a grant that I was actually here for. The last board meeting was the remote electronic alcohol monitoring. What you'll see every once in a while, we do get extended funds for the current year, and this is one of those years where the state can award up to 65% of the cost of monitoring remotely alcohol violations and probations as part of Department of Corrections. So when you look at this particular one, the contract 124778, that is just an extension of $1,000 to our current grant. So for the fiscal year of 2019, rather than it being $7,500, we get a total of $8,500. So they've made an addition to that.
So that's an amendment to a current grant. Is there a motion to adopt that amendment?
Mr. Chair, I would move on that, and I would commend you for, turning over rocks and finding a little bit more change underneath them, so.
There you go.
I'll second it.
I can send
And
Carol
Commissioner
Schaefer for that.
Madsen seconds. Any questions at all? I don't think we need any. All those in favor of approving this amendment to this particular grant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
We always appreciate you accepting more money.
Yes, we have no problem with that, do we? Is this?
No, he's got a signature.
And then you got one more.
Yes. And this is the last one. This is going to be the federal supplemental boating safety patrol grant that is divvied out by the state of Minnesota. Much like the state one, this also allows us to use it for officers' wages, equipment, things like that, except it comes on the state side or on the federal side of things rather than the state side. And that is actually from May 10th, 2019 to September 2nd, 2019. So the nice thing is about combining the two grants, we get a little extra funds for what we do water safety wise.
I will move on the grant acceptance.
Thank you. Motion by Amon,
I'll second.
seconded by Berg. Any questions on that one? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, this doesn't, the auditor need to sign that one? Or the state authority, it said, so, okay. All right.
Mr. Chair? You were first.
Did I call that? Yeah,
I have a question for the sheriff.
too busy.
He's got a question. For
Okay, go
And
ahead.
I had a comment, but go ahead.
Yes, sir.
It's unrelated to this, so go ahead,
I think I
Commissioner.
was going to have that same question. I just had that feeling.
The no-wake zone, last night I had a meeting, a question came up with extremely high water levels, and I was a little uncertain as to how that process took place, if it takes place. I think it came up because the comment was that Diamond Lake, the new shoreline is already, or the new beach is already getting a little damage as a result of high water levels. And so if that process would take place, how does it take place again?
Ask Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'll let Eric, but how we did in the past, the sheriff, because we don't have an ordinance right now, the sheriff would have to get permission from DNR, bring it to the county board. The county board has to grant what the conditions are of the no-wake zone, and then it's implied.
I'm not necessarily advocating, I'm just saying that it's come up in conversations with some of the residents.
Yes. And we've discussed this before, and I discussed it with Shane Baker as well. I know there was something that was put in the works before. It just hasn't been executed as far as what the powers are as a sheriff, given those circumstances.
Did I call that motion?
You did.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay, we're,
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
I have one question. Thanks for being here. I have a question that's not directly in line. Did you have one also, Corky?
We're not directly in line either.
Okay. Safety and security in this room.
Yes.
Could you do a training for us sometime in the future?
Yep, we talked about that.
Yes, we will be doing so.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Just a comment I read in the West Central Tribune this morning about one of the deputies that did an excellent job diffusing a potentially violent situation, and he had received special training, and I want to say a job well done.
Yes, that's Sergeant Todd Newman. He's one of our crisis negotiators. So when you look at least the sheriff's office, we have 3 slots for crisis negotiators, and he was there that night and did an awesome job.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Now,
Sheriff.
do we have to wait till 11 to take Wakanga?
Can we go to early?
Because they've been sitting there patiently for quite a
You want to do
while.
all of the 11:15 right now?
Can we do it as long as you're awarding it?
I mean, we can do all of mine if you want.
That's what I'm asking. That's what we're asking.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have to take a break.
ready.
Eric is here too for planning and zoning. Or-
Well, I know, but
Either
those
way.
folks have been waiting here for a while. I thought we'd give them a
Well,
chance.
they-
Unless they're enjoying this
they wanna
scintillating
wait.
conversation.
Wait.
Rich has heard it before.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I can do all of my 11:15. I'm prepared to do that if you want, if that's okay. They're all pretty quick.
Sure, go
Okay,
ahead.
all right. So the first one's going to be the awarding of the Lake Wakanda Enhancement Project. And included in your packet is an executive summary. Also included in your packet is a, I believe is a press release that's going to be going out soon. So you have an executive summary and a map and then a press release. So do you want to, we don't.
Show the map. Just
sure.
The public are they're watching on TV and may want to see what you're talking about.
Okay.
And it gives Rich something to do at night.
So what you've got is the Lake Wakanda area. There's 4 structures. There's 4 structures that are going to be installed with this project. 2 of the structures are going to be water control structures. The one on the overland flow on the south side right here is going to be a fish barrier and a water control structure. And then the one over here on County Road 8 is going to be a water control as well as a fish barrier. So that was the base bid, okay? Then the add alternate was going to be the box that is included slightly west of County Road 8, would be kind of across that little bay area. And that's going to be a box culvert with a fish control. And then the last one is going to be over on County Road 123, which is right here, which is the same as it's a box culvert with fish control. It's just not a water control structure. So we took bids on May 7th. We got bids that were within 1.5% of our estimate. And so it's our recommendation to award the base bid plus the 2 add alternates to Landwehr Construction out of St. Cloud, Minnesota in the amount of $757,965.00. And that work would be completed yet this year.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Madsen. I will second that. Any other questions? I think we talked about this last one. So all those in favor of...
Question. When it comes down to the funding for this, we're approving the lake structures, and I agree with you. What we're doing is going to be improvement. So we had the Grass Lake project structure that was going to be bid. Now it's not going to be bid this year. We can't afford it. How did that shift?
2 different grants.
Okay, the grants are not interchangeable by any means. Okay, I just want to verify that. Thank you, because I'll be asked.
All right. All those then in favor of awarding that bid, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is awarded. Thank you all for your very patient.
Well, we want to thank you, commissioners, for all that you've done to bring us to this point. And I know with Mother Nature, we're going to play with her for a little bit in a few years
Yes, we are.
to get this thing to where we expect it to get. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you.
Only 43 years in the making.
Yeah, I know. Hardly any time has passed since you started talking about this.
Blink of an eye.
Yeah. I was a mere child. All right, Mel.
So the second one is a grant agreement for the LRIP. This would be an agreement for the construction portion of the roundabout. We've done an agreement for the engineering. We've done an agreement for the right-of-way. Now this is the third agreement, which would include the construction of the roundabout. So it's my recommendation to the board to accept this grant and sign the resolution accepting the grant, which then authorizes us to sign the agreement in the amount of $1,496,909.98.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Amon. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Berg. Any questions? I see the signs are already up.
Yeah, the project where the intersection will be closed down on June 17. Mm-hmm. And the completion date is August 30th for open to traffic, and then it would be punch list things after that. Mm-hmm. So we have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And so, yeah, it'll be busy out there starting in a few weeks.
Awesome. All those in favor of Resolution 2019-33, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried as well. And now number 3, we have a,
So the last one is acceptance and final payment for County Road 5 to RNG Construction. So this project, it goes from County Road 40 up to Trunk Highway 9 by the Games Lake area. Do you want to show it on? No. We did the final lift this week. And once again, the edge line striping will be done with the HSIP project that we did this year. So we have grooved in edge line. The rumble strips will be cut in today. So we feel pretty good. It's center line striped. So we feel that this project turned out. And so it's our recommendation to the board to authorize final payment, accept the project and authorize final payment in the amount of $139,897.43.
I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
And Commissioner Emdick seconds. Did you, when you had the rumble strip guy out, did you happen to do County Road 1?
No.
I know, I'm a one-track mind.
Not on the agenda, Mr. Chair.
I know, I'm sorry, I apologize, I should know better. All right, all those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried as well.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you very much. Yes.
Before Mr. Odens leaves the podium, could I ask a question about?
Sure.
So there was no new funding in the just completed legislative session. And we don't know where everything is on the bonding bill. Have you had a chance to analyze how that affects Kandiyohi County?
I have not, other than we will not get new money. I did write a letter indicating to push. I wrote a letter to Baker and Lang about the bonding bill and to push, because we have our CASA 55 overpass. And so we have a chance to make a push for that. And I will be making application to MMB on our behalf of a 50% match that the county is going to do. And so I did that. And as far as we didn't go backwards, let's put it that way. So that's the good news. So that there is going to be a bonding bill. We didn't go backwards. And so did we get new money? No, we didn't get new money with no gas tax.
Mr. Emdick, I could have declared you out of order on that one. But, I think everybody was a little curious about that. So thank you for the question.
I did ask and you did allow.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know what you were going to ask. But anyway, thank you. Does anyone, maybe it would take a little bit. Eric, can you give us we probably should take a little break.
Yep.
If anybody needs to. A 5-minute recess. let's resume our meeting.
There we go.
We're back in session, and patiently waiting is Eric Van Dyken to talk about planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have for you today 2 action items from the May 13th meeting of the Planning Commission. The first is a request from T&T Farms for a swine finishing site. This is a site actually that's been in production for quite some time. It's been purchased recently by T&T Farms, which is the Taches family. Previously, this was a site operated by Country Pork, originally permitted as Holland Pork. It's gone through some different iterations through the years. First it was nursery, then it was finishing. They had some catastrophic failure of the barn roofs last year amid all the heavy snow this past winter. And so T&T Farms has purchased a site. They propose to build 1 new single barn to hold 915 animal units of swine finishing. And the Plan Commission did unanimously recommend approval with 3 attached conditions and findings.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept the Planning Commission recommendations based on the facts and findings with the conditions mentioned.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made, motion seconded. Did you get the names? Madsen moved, Imdick second. Any questions? No. Certainly, it seems like we ought to let the guy rebuild his barn. So, all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. And you have another item?
Yes, request number 2 is a request of Chad Neeland for a conditional use permit to operate an auto body business and associated auto sales. This is a property that has actually been operated as an auto body for a significant time in the Gear family. It's now being sold. Mr. Neeland would like to operate there. The portion of this proposal that's really an expansion of the pre-existing use is the auto sales portion, where you will have a display lot of about up to 15 vehicles is the proposed limitation. That would be right along Highway 23 across from New London, a country stop area there. So there's plenty of room for that. The Planning Commission unanimously recommends approval with 4 attached conditions and findings.
I would so move to accept the recommendation citing the facts and findings and conditions.
I'll second that.
Motion by Madsen, seconded by Imdick. Any questions on that one? I think they probably took a good look at it at the meeting. So all those in favor of granting that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is also carried. Is that it? There wasn't there one more item on
that was a preliminary plat. That'll go back to the board.
All right.
When it's a final plat, I suspect the next meeting.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you. And next.
Connie
Mort.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Here today before you to bring a memorandum of understanding between our AFSCME group that represents our public health division, AFSCME number 559, an MOU between that union and collective bargaining agreement and the administration in Kandiyohi County. Basically, the agreement would outline how we would view and track flex time for our professional employees in the public health division. Family Services currently does have a system, and it is talked about in their collective bargaining agreement. It addresses both comp time for our non-exempt employees and how that is tracked, and the limitation on how much can be accrued. And then it also addresses flex time for our professional employees, which basically is an hour to hour as opposed to a 1.5 hour to hour for our non-exempt employees. All of that being said, that is under the Family Services contract. We do not have the same agreement under the public health contract. So public health for our professional employees have been tracking flex time in their own, basically their own software. PHDoc is what the software is called. And so what we're doing with this memorandum of understanding is not changing the contract per se, but putting in place a way of tracking the flex time for our professional employees covered under the public health collective bargaining arrangement, so that we may have that on file. So basically, we would have a column that would be added to their timesheet, and that would be tracked through our system as it is for the rest of our employees. And that would be in effect until the end of this collective bargaining agreement, which is December 31st of 2020.
I would move to accept.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Berg. This is basically cleaning up something that, okay.
Allows
Right.
us to track time.
Yeah.
It is just to track time, and it probably will be something that will be addressed at the next negotiation session, and we'll see, where we come out with it at that time for this particular CBA.
Just
Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as the amount of flex time that can be accumulated, does this mean, I know it's going to go over into the next year?
No, actually, this agreement will address that, and in the procedures that they currently have in place and that are referenced here, the policy and procedure manual adopted back in 1997 on just a unit basis, and they've been treating flex time that way in the department itself. It does not carry over. It's used a day at a time, and some of those things are listed in that procedure as well. So it is it's handled differently than our family services CBA or collective bargaining agreement, which in that collective bargaining agreement, not to get too far into the weeds here, but there is an 80-hour limitation on the family services side as opposed to the public health side. Public health will not accrue and will not carry over from year to year. It's a little bit different rules.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Clarification.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting this memorandum of understanding, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Need my autograph? Get this one. This is the official one. Mr. Netland isn't here. Should we do committee reports first?
Just one other point. I'm sorry, one other point, and I don't know if you are aware as a board, but we do have a different business agent that will be representing our AFSCME union at this time. Luke Langner is I think he's reassigning into another area. Stephen Schmidt will be our new business agent, and Larry and I had the opportunity to meet Stephen when he came along with Luke when we were talking about this MOU. So just to make you aware that we are going to see a little bit of a change in representation there on the AFSCME side.
Thank you, Connie.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Chair, on the next item I had on the board agenda was the County Road 15 and 5 intersection of the buildings. I want to ask to remove that. I was trying to find better ways to use those buildings at that intersection. It just didn't work out, so I asked that agenda item be removed.
Okay. I see Mr. Netland isn't here.
We could do, there was a question regarding gravel tax dollar amounts, and
Okay.
Mark Thompson was working on that, so maybe Mark can provide the board an update, and we can ask the board to either accept or not accept it.
Okay.
And this came in after the agendas were set out, and
Yeah, that's correct. I think it was in February when I was here before, and
first time, yeah.
first time, and I brought the gravel tax amount for 2018 to distribute to the board. Since then, we were notified that one operator had completed all of their quarterly reports in 18, first, second, third, and fourth quarters, and it was passed on to their accounts payable division to make the payment. And due to new staff, it somehow, the ball was dropped. And it never got paid. And I feel that it was just an honest mistake. But, so we have, I did have some handouts for you. So what it amounted to was an additional $41,165. And 5% again goes to the county, to our office for the administrative part of it. The balance of $39,106.75 is split up. Part of that went to Burbank Township. Genesee Township received $123.14. Again, Burbank Township was $996.86. Green Lake Township will receive $8,198.95. Lake Andrew Township will receive $7,301.42. The Road and Bridge Fund will receive $16,620.37. And of course, 15% of it goes to the Special Reserve Fund, and that amounted to $5,866.00. Again, total distribution was $41,165. And again, the gravel tax reporting is based on, it's an honor system, and I don't feel that this episode was, I think it was just an honest mistake, and due to a staff change, it was missed. So
I would so move to accept.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved by Madsen, seconded by Imdick. Any further discussion? I guess we talked about this, and this is just a correction. So
yes, this would be amended. This is in addition to what I brought to you prior. Yep.
All right. All those in favor of accepting this report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried as well.
We can do committee reports now, Mr.
I
Chair.
think we should, yeah.
Yep, just a reminder, we have a AMC District 6 meeting in Madison on June 7th. Just a reminder.
Same day as Woodland Centers.
Yeah, I wonder.
They are aware of the scheduling conflict and
Woodland Centers is.
Woodland Centers is, and they're going to kind of
Because you're the chair.
take a close look at that for next year when they schedule their annual meeting so that it doesn't conflict. And we'll have to kind of keep that in mind too. But
what time is Woodland Centers meeting?
it starts at 8 or 7. There's a meeting, board meeting that probably would happen at the end, right after 12:30 or so. So possibly it depends on how long it takes. We got an hour's drive from Madison though, at least.
Yeah, and when you, Mr. Chair, when you say we don't set the district meeting, it's
No, I know
AMC that
AMC
sets that
does,
district
but
meeting.
now Ashley is aware of the potential conflict for next year, and she'll look up that ahead of time before she schedules their annual meeting. So that we talked about at our last meeting. Speaking of committee reports, we'll start there. One item on the agenda here is the Pheasants Forever thing, and Corey Netland said he didn't have to be here, but I asked him to come, and now we raced through this, so we probably better grant him a little bit of a stay of execution on this one, and hopefully he'll come.
If he heard that, he's not coming now.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we're 45 minutes ahead of schedule.
yes. So Roger, do you want to start with committee
I
reports?
sure can.
And
You want me to go
talk
along
us
then,
along?
being
Well,
the,
no, I don't want you to.
All right. So our last meeting, board meeting, was the 7th, and as I go through this on May 9th, we had a EDC joint operations meeting. As you know, I'm the liaison to that. I'm not a voting member, but there's quite a bit of discussion there regarding the proposed daycare in Spicer. among other general information. On the 13th, I attended the North Fork Crow River Watershed board meeting, which I do pretty much every month, fairly routine stuff there. On the 14th was a Highway 23 Coalition Legislative Committee where we continue to work on some details for the upcoming transportation fly-in in Washington, D.C. And on the 16th, I attended the presentation by Doug Griffiths at the Little Crow Country Club. It was an outstanding presentation. I was a little taken aback when I saw the title of it, of 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. And he said, well, if I didn't say it like that, people wouldn't show up. He said, so I used that title to get them to get their attention. And then last night I attended the Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District meeting, which was routine in most matters, except that we have to revisit the construction of the lift stations in New London, Spicer area, the Green Lake area. So that's all I have.
Okay. Okay. Actually, this is one meeting I don't have a lot to go into really? For committee reports, but I will update you on 3 of them. And we had the Prairie Lakes Youth Program meeting this month, and at that board meeting we went over all the statistics for the month and the budgets and seeing where they're at, and discussion about how some of these bigger counties like Hennepin County is very slow at paying their bills, and some are like 6 months old. The good news is they do always pay them, but it raises havoc with the budget. Besides going over the receivables and all the financial statements, there was a short discussion about Kandiyohi County's motion last meeting, I believe it was, to support a 30% match with the state, if possible, bonding from the state for the addition to their program. One board member was not at that meeting that we discussed that before and was a little concerned about Prairie Lakes Youth Program being responsible for paying this back, and wanted to maybe just do a 5-year lease. The discussion didn't go any further at this point, and I don't think it will. But I just want everybody to be aware of that. On the light side, there is going to be a therapy dog, and one of the staff members volunteered to help with this. Somehow they came across a St. Bernard dog, and it's 2 months old, and they're going to make it a therapy dog. But in addition to that, it's also going to go through training to detect contraband in the facility. So it's kind of a dual-purpose animal, and might be an interesting thing to see how that all turns out, and I'll keep you posted if you're interested at all. The 18 County Mental Health Consortium meeting was this month in Marshall, and that's a very large group and a lot of different things going over in reference to mental health services in the 18 counties. For some reason, DHS cut some funding, and maybe not too surprised, but there was really some concern about that, and we're going to draft a letter from the consortium representing the 18 counties that we want to understand why these cuts took place. The consortium funds a lot of different programs for adult mental health services, and Kandiyohi County is very involved in that. And the housing program itself is a really important program for residents in our county and helping funding some of those. Had a PAC4 collaborative meeting, and that was in Hutchinson, and PAC4 has applied for 4 grants. They won't find out until the summer how they come out on that. They're always looking for additional funding, and have done a pretty good job finding funding to keep it going well. And one other thing, they have a Facebook page now, and if you want to go on there and press like, you're certainly encouraged to do that. Otherwise, I have nothing else except I also attended 13 mistakes you can make for a community in Wilmer, and I was so impressed with that. It was just positive things, and it came about the same time as the news we got from the New York Times article stressing what a good job Kandiyohi County is doing.
Okay, I see Mr. Netland is here now, and we got a little ahead of you, Corey. So we started with our committee reports, but I think the other gentlemen will be more than happy to wait until you make your presentation, which, by the way, you're not required to do, and we thank you for coming.
Yep, I was going to make the same comment. It was you made quick work this morning, so I apologize for the delay. I've tried to come a half hour early, which puts me on schedule, but this is all good. So,
you want the map?
I think so. Sure. All right. What I'm here about is an acquisition project that the Pheasants Forever organization is pursuing. So as such, they're required to give county board notification. And they do that in the form of a letter typically, and then I usually extend an invitation that I would come before the board if you so desire. And on second thought, I decided let's just plan on that. I think it's best to have a face-to-face conversation and explain why we're doing what we're doing in a little more detail and a little more personable than in the form of a letter. So that's what brings me here today. This wildlife area is called Regal Flats Wildlife Management Area. It would be southeast of the city of Regal, about a mile and a half. The existing wildlife area is 282 acres. It's on the North Fork of the Crow River, and this would add another 231 acres to that. I'm going to, if you don't mind, I guess I'll read some parts out of my acquisition information form. And because I spent some time on that to basically summarize why this is a strategic acquisition and we should look at pursuing this. And this is something that goes to our St. Paul office. So basically what I'm doing with these is making a case that we should dedicate our resources to this area versus Monoman County or what have you, anywhere throughout the state, I guess, and how this ranks versus other acquisition parcels. And on the top, I just have it penciled in there that SWAT stands for Statewide Acquisition Tool, Acquisition Assessment Tool. And I see ranges in there anywhere from about 15 up to the highest one I've seen is 74. Anything over 40, and it's almost a no-brainer that this is something that we should pursue. So 60 is a very strong number, I guess, just to give you a frame of reference on that. But I'll just pick snippets out of here. But the reason it's a priority for us is because of the outstanding prairie quantity and quality in the Regal Flats area. This area is identified as a prairie core area in the Minnesota Prairie Conservation Plan. And this prairie core is called the Glacial Lakes, and it extends from more or less Glacial Lake State Park up in Pope County near Starbuck, kind of down through the Ordway Prairie area north of Sunburg, over through Sibley State Park, and then back up towards Paynesville to the Regal area. So it's a large area, but it is one of the best areas of unbroken remnant prairie that has existed for centuries. So. And we have less than 1% of our native remnant prairie remaining in Minnesota. So it's a high priority to maintain what we got, because try as we may, we can't recreate prairie when it's gone, and we do try. We try to reconstruct prairies, and I can tell by simply visiting a site, whether it's a remnant prairie or a reconstructed one, they're both fine habitat for pheasants and a lot of other prairie animals, but the point is that those seed sources are valuable too, and we do go in and harvest that native seed and use that on other reconstructions. This area is also a deer wintering area, probably the largest one in Kandiyohi County. We can have upwards of 400 deer in that area, and we maintain about 20 acres of food plot every winter there, standing corn, and a lot of years it'll be completely gone. So that's a high priority from that standpoint too. And then it's also in the Bonanza Valley groundwater management area. It's an area with a lot of irrigation and a lot of concern about groundwater resources. And this specific parcel does have a well. I just penciled it down. It's a 16-inch well. 1,000 gallons per minute is what it's authorized at, so that comes to 27.5 million gallons a year of good potable groundwater that we will actually decommission that and it'd be a benefit to the overall groundwater management area. It was permitted in 1969 and services 90 acres. I had played with the idea of keeping the well in order to provide water for grazing system there. But there are also stock ponds there and other means to obtain water. A smaller well or something, for example, a 16-inch well is plenty of overkill for livestock watering. So, but that is in future plans to have a kind of a working lands model where we're looking to manage the restored grasslands through grazing. So. We will have a cooperator out there and working with us on that. And we might shift some of those food plot acres from the existing unit to this one because it's perhaps closer to where those deer are coming from. So I think that's enough on the information form. A lot of this is an old CRP map. See where I'm at here. A lot of it was into CRP, but it was taken out and cropped, the north part here. It came out in 2012. There are still some other filter strips and such that are part of CRP. So that's 2022, 2019, 2022, 2012. We have different years here, but it was into the program due to the marginal quality of it in terms of cropland. Without the irrigation, they would not have, even in a wet year like last year, would have had a difficult time pulling off the corn crop that they did there. So just to look at the landscape and why this would rank as a priority. The parcel is right over here, and this would be roughly 2 miles west of Paynesville. We're getting pretty close to Paynesville here. The North Fork of the Crow runs along through here, through the existing wildlife area. This area that's in kind of a teal color here, that's the Nature Conservancy has a permanent protection on that. That's their Regal Meadows Preserve. So that's already under permanent protection and provides a lot of wildlife because some of this is not open to public hunting. So of course those animals don't know that. They wander off of there. This should be a fantastic wildlife area for hunters that I think they'll really enjoy this area. So, and then you go the other direction from Regal, and we have a large grassland complex up on State Highway 55. This pink color is the federal lands, the Burbank Waterfowl Production Area. So it's just a good habitat base around here, and that's what we try to build around, is where we have those areas. And all the brown on this map was CRP in 2007. We don't have an updated map of CRP. They're kind of protective of that, but a lot of that has remained, and that adds to the habitat, even if it be on a temporary basis. One more. This is zoomed into the parcel a little bit better. So we're not talking about 230 acres of cropland here, but it is roughly 100 acres. And on the north here, when the river's flooding, like for example now, it'll jump out of the banks and kind of meander through here too. So we have kind of a combination of sandy soils, because it's the Bruton-Belgrade sand plain, but then also flooding potential. So it's a goofy area where, you know, the crops are susceptible to either flooding out or burning up later in the year. So it's a difficult area to farm. And this was owned by Herb Burscheid. He has passed away, and his heirs were looking at selling to Pheasants Forever. So I believe we have five or six siblings involved with it, and they're all on board with this plan. So,
All right.
yeah, I guess I'll just open it up to see if there's any questions on
Roger?
it.
Yeah.
By the way, in Stearns County, they say Bearshide.
Okay.
You mentioned Kandiyohi and versus some of the other areas of the state, and I really appreciate you coming in. I think Kandiyohi County may be one of the leading counties, if not the leading county in the state of Minnesota, for working with WPA and Fish and Wildlife and DNR and Pheasants Forever and Ducks Unlimited in public land acquisition. And I know that some counties really are opposed to additional public land acquisition, but we're pretty unique in this part of the state with being on the glacial ridge and being kind of the top of several headwaters. So I appreciate that. And the other thing I appreciate is the working relationship we have. Sometimes all of the entities that I talked about have to work with business and other organizations in order for this to continue to move forward. And so, again, I appreciate that. Sure. Is there opportunity, I'll give you a question rather than just comments here, is there opportunity for flood mitigation in this properties, or is it just too flat that it can't hold any more water when the river goes out of its banks?
Mr. Commissioner, thank you for the question. Thank you for the comment. I appreciate both. As far as that, we do look at wetland restoration potential on all parcels, and that's one thing that doesn't bear out too well in the Regal area as a whole, and including this parcel, because of the sandy nature of the soils, but also the lack of topography. At one time, we looked at placing a small berm on the Regal Meadows WMA, which is the other direction from Regal, and it was determined if we put 2-foot dike there, we would backwater for 12 miles to the northwest. So we could create Lacaparra Lake here if we wish, but we'd destroy a lot of prairie in the process. So it's, yeah, you know, there's a lot for many different species. As far as waterfowl go, you know, up on the river, there's wood duck hunting and other opportunities, and then field hunting for waterfowl. But that's one thing we do lack a little bit in this area is wetland resources for both flood retention and for waterfowl use. But I made the case in maybe that information form, or at least verbally to my colleagues, that you could make a case that this is our best wildlife area for deer hunting, pheasant, turkey, dove hunting, and the reason being we plant small grain out here as well, so there's opportunities for goose hunting then and dove hunting, and it's you know, we have larger areas, but this just brings together a lot of features that makes it a nice area for a lot of different species. And we did a research study, or the U of M did in 2016, saying where do people use WMAs? And this was done throughout the farmland region of the state, and it bared out that Kandiyohi County is the #1 county for people hunting deer on a wildlife area, and #2 for pheasants, #2 for ducks. #1 was, for those two counties, was Lacaparra County, and #2 for deer was Lacaparra County. So we should buy all our wildlife areas in Lacaparra or Kandiyohi County. But I do appreciate the relationship we have here in this county to that end. So.
All right. Anybody else? Harlan.
Mr. Chairman, just to highlight, I think the rating system is very good. We look at a number of years ago, and that wasn't used. Mm-hmm. And that was the result of lots of intent, as you well know, conversations, Corey, that took place within counties and commissioners and DNR and so on, to emphasize prioritizing so that we are not hopscotching and we're not haphazardly doing something. This bears out that the process does work, and DNR changed and the counties changed at that point with a good outcome. The second point, to put in perspective, 27 million gallons plus of irrigation water is about 13 inches of rain on 90 acres. So it's, you know, 27 million, it's hard to wrap your head around, but 13 inches of rain on 90 acres would replenish that.
I believe, if you don't mind, I think it was 37.7 acre feet of water, something like that was the number.
So it's,
Acre
you know,
feet.
it's a lot of gallons, but look in perspective. But the most important point I want to make is that the PILT, you know, Corey has provided us with some good documentation several months ago, Corey, on the background as far as PILT from our discussion. It is smaller in perspective in Kandiyohi County as far as the amount of dollars that are necessary. If you're in Roseau or Kitson, it's huge. It's huge. However, it still behooves us to make sure that we continue to advocate for that funding on a state level. You know, you have the comparisons here, which are certainly very important, Corey, but we need to keep that dollars coming. The state must continually allocate those dollars, otherwise the PILT disappears. And if it disappears for one, there's multiple properties, as you well know, Corey, that are funded with PILT in this county, and it does then become significant. So, again, from a board perspective, an AMC perspective, we've got to continue to make sure we advocate for that. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. Anybody else? I appreciate your coming, and we'll see you again. Yeah, it's always good to. Glad you showed up.
Sure.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, thanks for the working relationship. I told some folks that I'm going to go talk to them. Like, oh, why? Is there a concern? I said, absolutely not. I enjoy it. So there you are.
All right. Okay, cool. Thanks again.
Thanks, you, Corey.
Angelica, are you just visiting, or you have something you'd like to let us know? Okay, we won't. I think we will leave it at that.
She's monitoring her supervisor. That's
right. I will be very brief because I'm leaving here soon.
Yes, be safe.
Historical Society met, both the executive committee and the regular board, and we gave raises to our key people. Not big money, but they were very happy, and we're very happy with them. Jill does a wonderful job of representing the Historical Society in the community, and happy to have her there. We already had a report on the Highway 23 Coalition, so I won't go into that. We had a ditch meeting over in Benson last week. It has to do with the Shakopee Lake, which is down in Swift County, or almost in, it might even be in Chippewa County, where a dam has been failing for years, and we're trying to get that taken care of. There were some people that showed up that were concerned, as always, but I think we're making progress there and about to do some work. Woodland Centers, I already reported on, essentially discussed the conflict between the AMC district meeting and their annual meeting. Good news on they were income was down a little bit when they had to close their detox center last year for lack of staff. They're back up and running, and they had a very good March. So that's good news. Chippewa River we already talked about, and I'll let Harlan talk about. Well, we already pretty much talked about Prairie Woods too.
Prairie Woods is done.
Yeah. So
planning and zoning is done.
Yeah. So go for it.
3 points. The drainage work group that I sit on, representing AMC, the legislation that was recommended from the drainage work group to the legislature passed. Was a very significant passage. It allows for, on a repair basis, and we can get into more detail later on, but it does allow for counties to use as an option a runoff-based delivery system model that would allow us to do a repair and apportion those costs to the watershed without doing a redetermination of benefits. There are some ditch systems that are needing to have major repairs, and the time to do the redetermination of benefits, as we all know, can be 3 to 5 years. The repair needs to be done much quicker, and the watershed acres has changed substantially. So by using this model, which is highly technology-based, it's LiDAR-based, it is, don't ask me to explain all the other technicalities, but would allow then to incorporate the additional acres and assign those costs. It is an option for repairs only. And I know there are several counties right now that have expressed interest to use it. I just want to say that after 2 years of discussions, this finally passed. The work group that I sit on, the Children of Incarcerated Parents, we're preparing our final report. And gentlemen, and Mr. Kleindl, when the final report is done, I plan to meet with Tammy and with our staff, and I'm going to suggest to them that perhaps a discussion presentation at the board might be important as far as some of the points that we have learned and some of the points that we are yet to learn. It's a long-term project, but in conjunction with a number of discussions that we've had at the Family Services and Corrections, as more discussion this morning with the ACES and everything, there are things that I feel very strongly that we need to have more of a conversation at the board. So I'll be suggesting that. That won't happen for a few months, but I think it's very important. Last item, the Workforce Development Board, again, which I represent Kandiyohi County out of the 11 counties. There are some major changes that have occurred at DEED from the commissioner through almost all of the assistant commissioners and staffing is going to be completely upside down in a sense. They're all being replaced, which I very strongly support. DEED was going in a direction that was not economically sound for the state of Minnesota, very frankly. I'm very, very encouraged by it. One of the, shall we say, the outfalls of that, accidentally discovered that, and I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, is that the state of Minnesota in some respects is way behind in some of their computer modeling and some of the systems that are being used. The school system if I take 10th grade or 11th grade or 12th grade, looking at a job counselor, the verbiage and the categories that are used in the school system to encourage individuals to go into a career, that type of thing, do not match the state system. The state, if I say agriculture to you, Raleigh, it might mean one thing. To the state, it meant a different category. To the school, it meant a different category completely. But one individual at the state about 2 months ago has chosen, very much to his credit, to redo the state modeling system so it matches. So, Mr. Kleindl, why should I be, as a counselor, if I'm encouraging somebody to go into healthcare I'm just using it as an example there, and that's what the student is focusing on, but yet it doesn't match up with, and maybe in that particular category, there are no jobs available or it's very limited. So let's make sure we talk to each other. It was extremely enlightening, and I'm also going to suggest that when the touches get put on it, that we have Joan and some of her staff come that will provide us with a brief update as far as that, because Connie, from the positions, from the school counselors and so on, it doesn't make any sense to have apples and oranges. Let's make sure we're coordinated at that point. So I had a good week.
Yeah.
Good week with meetings, and I also got the corn in. So
good job.
Well,
it really was a good
most of it in. There's still a quarter section that will be, I think, prevented plant. That's just the way it's going to be. So Angie just can't keep the rain away. So I got to blame somebody, Angela.
There you go. All right.
Well, Harlan, you had a great week. That's fantastic. Mine was a little lighter than that. Good news, though, the HRA budget, I gave that to Mr. Kleindl, and proposed budget, I think we're looking at only cost of living increases based on increase in compensation. That's going to reflect minor increase. 13 ways to kill a community. Yeah, that was fun. Listen to. One thing we don't have a shortage of is water. And we're blessed to have such a great aquifer. I sure hope we maintain that in the future, because it's a great asset to the community for promotion. He hit on a lot of other issues too. It was a good report. He was a good speaker, good motivational speaker. As far as the library budget goes, we approved the preliminary budget. We're not going to be seeing an increase, very minimal. I think less than about 0.5% for the library this year. So it was amazing, though, is that for 10 years they have not increased the funding to the local regional library system, the state of Minnesota. So I don't know how much longer that can be held off, to be quite frank with you. I don't know how it's sustainable. But then it's also based on the needs. We have an increasing amount of people in our regional library system that are using it. So just be prepared. The other issue, Larry, I have not heard anything as far as any money needed for the transit system for the buildings yet. I don't think that's going to be in the budget for this year. If there will be a proposal, it'll be probably for the following year proceeding. But I'll let you know if anything happens on that need based on, we have 4 buses sitting outside there right now. Just to comment briefly on, it was good to see Sheriff Helene here. I don't know if it's possible. I know you have a public safety group that meets occasionally. As a county commissioner, we ask a lot of questions with all our staff people here, and I'm just curious if we could maybe have from the Sheriff's Department, if Larry could coordinate some type of a kind of like a briefing or another briefing, update quarterly on reports, accidents, thefts, all the other things associated with public safety. We get the report at the end of the year, but we don't get anything in the interim. It'd be nice to have that at least quarterly or once every 6 months, minimally, rather than having all the information set at one time. If that's possible, if he has the data, I'd appreciate it. It's just my personal request. Thank you very much. That's about it.
Hooray. Anybody else? We're adjourned. Thank you all. Yes.
You are driving.